Very good morning to all of you. I would first like to thank the Steel Group for giving us an opportunity to come here and present. We are absolutely an odd company out in this whole group. We are probably the newest kid on the block. And the idea for me today is to just introduce the group and how we have transitioned into this particular vertical. So my name is Neeraj Sarda. I'm an industrial engineer and a master's degree with finance. At the group level, we are currently the third generation in the business. So I'll just walk you through what are the topics. We'll just introduce the group, our journey through Rhino, what is the technology disruption we are bringing in for the production of mineral wool, the breakthroughs, the innovation, the disruptions, the sustainable infrastructure, which is the most important thing going forward, and also for the industry, what should be the things to be considered, as I think that in the next 10 years, there's going to be a lot of change that the industry will witness. Okay, sorry. So, Sarda Group, the flagship company is called as Sarda Energy and Minerals Limited. Today, we are basically an energy-heavy company. We have close to 1 gigawatt of power generation in India through three modes: thermal, hydro, and solar. Thermal is our biggest portfolio. In the next 5 years, we are going to be crossing almost 1.6 to 1.7 gigawatt of power generation. Our plants are spread all across India, right from north to south. That's one vertical. Mining, we are also into mining of coal, iron ore, and we are prospecting a lot of other minerals. In India, outside of India, our current capacity of mining is going to be close to 3 to 4 million tons of coal and iron ore put together. We are also a steel producer. We have all the allied steel products put together, more than 1.5 million ton of capacity. That is pellets, DRI, and wire rods. We are one of the largest producers of ferroalloys in India, close to 250,000 tons of production per annum. And apart from that, we are also having the largest furnaces, electric furnaces, to produce manganese alloys in India today in the private sector. We are a very diversified group with a lot of unrelated businesses also. We also run an agro division where we have dairy products under the brand name of Vachan. It's quite visible in the central part of India today. Apart from that, we also have a seed production business where we have hybrid seed production that goes with the name of Comienzo. We are also into real estate with more than 1 million square feet of real estate under construction in various parts of India. Today we have a sales turnover of close to 6,000 crore. Totally all across our verticals, we have more than 8,000 people working in India and outside India. We export to more than 60 countries. Our ferroalloys is used practically in majority of the steel plants globally. Our newest facility, Visakhapatnam, is 95% export oriented, where majority of the ferroalloys goes to some of the most critical markets, including Japan, where for some of the products we are probably one of the few suppliers to a lot of companies. In fact, some of the large corporations in Japan, they are solely buying these alloys from us. That's basically because of our legacy of so many years, quality, and the trust that we have built across the sectors in which we operate. We are also a listed entity since many, many years. Today, Sarda Energy and Minerals Limited has a market cap of more than $2 billion. That's the code from which you can search. Basically, we started from a very small and humble beginning in 1930s with a small shop for trading steel, and over the last 80 years plus, this journey has happened through the third generation in place today. In this whole journey, as a group, we have a DNA of sustainability, and each vertical, it is very important for us to bring sustainability in picture. And internally, somewhere around 2017, we formed a business excellence team through which we tried to bring in the best practices across the world. And as everybody knows, there are 17 US UN ideated sustainability goals for reaching net zero. And these are some of the goals based on our business verticals we have adopted. And as you can see, climate action is one of them. And that's what that's what gave the birth to Rhino in our own company. So let me take you through this journey, because insulation is completely, absolutely new vertical for us. For the first time, we're getting into this vertical and how it all started. So as I mentioned, 10 years ago, we all started to think about, what are the sectors that we should get into. And it was not at all planned that we should get into. It was all a journey which led us to insulation today, especially rock mineral wool. So there's a lot of brainstorming with our top management we had. And we did a lot of SWOT analysis over the last 30 years, what's our core strengths and where we can leverage them. And we identified that the electric furnace is something that we have mastered over many, many decades. And practically today we have a complete design engineering team which can create furnaces. In fact, the latest expansion that we did, 60% of the entire furnace was designed, engineered and commissioned by our own internal team. So we thought that why not leverage our expertise and core competence in electric furnaces and try to find out which are the products that can be made through that. And through that journey and R&D, which we partnered with a couple of reputed universities across the globe in order to do the R&D. And this whole journey started in 2017, and it took us 5 years to do the R&D and identify the product finally which we should get into. And that's how Rhino, the rock mineral wool, was formed in our company. Now let me tell you that today, in the previous sessions we were talking about, a lot of innovation should happen in the industry. Today, ours is the first and the largest electric furnace to produce rock wool in India. And rest all producers are using cupola furnaces, which is the old established technology to do that. The biggest advantage of an electric furnace, we don't use any coke and any coal for production of rock wool. Ideally, for all the rock wool that is being produced, in fact, all the multinational companies very recently, because of the energy crisis that happened post the Ukraine war, are shifting to electric furnace route. And some of their first few plants are going to come into production. Some may have come, but I would say that that's the journey that they have started in Europe and the western part of the world. We don't use any coke, we don't use any coal at all. And obviously, because of that, it brings down the carbon footprint dramatically. The second and the most important point of our product, which is the most unique and distinguishing factor, is we all know, and people who are familiar with rock wool, they would know that it has shots. Shot content come as the unfiberized part. But majority of the rock wool, in fact, all of the rock wool that is produced by the cupola furnace route will have metallic balls. Now, if you see, rock wool as a layer of insulation, which is produced by the cupola furnace, is interlaced with a lot of metallic iron balls. It comes into place because of the technology, because at the moment you put coke and coal into a cupola furnace along with the natural rocks or any other material that you use, it will reduce all the natural elements into it. And that's why the iron ball comes into picture. Now, that's the default thing that will happen, very difficult to control. You can try to minimize it as possible if you address the metallurgy of it, but still you will have metallic shots. And when metallic shots are there, basically it's the highest conductor of electricity as well as heat. In our product, there are zero metallic shots. Zero, absolutely zero. Obviously, an electric furnace gives us a very high edge in terms of controlling the entire process. The reason being, it's a continuous process. We do not have to stop the furnaces as you have to do in cupola, because the technology is like that. You have to maintain the lining, you have to take a shutdown, repair it. the electric furnace route, we can run the furnace for 9 months straight without stopping. That gives us a very fine and a very quick process control. Now, how does it help us? It helps us to improve the fiber quality. You can have consistently the fiber in the range of the ideal, which is specified in multiple standards like 4 micron and around. And this we have seen that we are consistently getting this kind of fiber diameter, which is very important as far as the insulation property of rock wool is concerned. It's also quite a recognized fact that an electric furnace is 20% more energy efficient than the cupola furnace. It also helps us to recycle a lot of material into the system. So obviously it supports and propels circular economy in the entire concept. We have applied for a process and product patent both because we actually have not looked at this product from the application side. Being in the metallurgical industry, we have looked completely from the metallurgical side. And that's how we had gone, and that's how we have created this state of the most modern plant today that exists in the country. It's the most automated plant with pendulum technology. I think new plants will definitely come with it. The old plants didn't have it. The pendulum technology helps us to provide a very consistent thickness of the product and the density of the product, which are the two most important things in the rock mineral wool. Okay. Yeah, as I mentioned previously, zero metallic short. So this is a close-up picture of our product. And I have collected samples from all around the world. So we have spent 10 years in this particular R&D, and my biggest agenda whenever I travel to Southeast Asia, Europe, America, is to first go and see what kind of rock wool they are selling. And I take sample from them. We get it to our lab, and we do a complete metallurgical analysis. This is very typical. If you can see, you will find these small metallic shots which are there. And this is by default the nature of the cupola technology. You can't control it. And this is the biggest challenge for the insulation properties. Now, how does it translate? So since we just commissioned our plant in April, so it's only 6 months that we are into the market. We're already selling commercially, and we have also made a couple of sales to the PSUs like Nuclear Power Corporation of India. And consistently in the testing, we have found that the thermal conductivity specified by the standards, whether you're talking about American, European, or Indian, our thermal conductivities are coming far, far superior to what the standard prescribes. As we go forward, we are going to come out with the actual test certificates, and we are going to, give it to the customers in order to compare it. So I'll take the questions at the end, if you don't mind. So let me start with the disruption. So when we went for the entire commissioning of the plant, we thought that if we have to disrupt and we have to bring something new to the industry which is age old, we need to do something disruptive within our own premises. So we took a very bold step, and we didn't bring in anybody who has run a rock wool plant in the country. We have selected all fresh engineers from the college and brought them into the production line so that new ideas, new thought process can come in. So we don't have a single person which has run a rock wool plant in his life, running the plant today, which is probably one of the largest plant of 36,000 tons plus capacity. The one disruption that we have brought in for the first time in the world, we are launching 3 variants of rock wool. Currently we are in the market with Rhino Elite, which is the base product. By the end of this month, we are launching two new variants. Okay. Enduro and Eco Green. The distinguishing factors on all 3 is, by default, our product is 25% less carbon intensive. Enduro will be close to 45%, and Eco Green will be top line product with almost 65% more, 65% lesser carbon footprint in any product available. Now, why these three variants? These three variants are just not on the carbon intensity. There are 13 parameters that we have identified through which the product can be distinguished. And the biggest thing is that today the customer, we've seen in the previous presentation, it's so cost conscious market. So there are few people, for them sustainability doesn't make any sense, no matter what the global scenario is, no matter what the climate change is talking about. And there are certain, on the other extreme, you have people with the green building certifications, like the LEED certifications or the CII Green Business Council certification, where carbon footprint is mandatory. As a commodity, and a lot of people would know that today, if you have to sell your product in Europe or Western world, you need to specify what your carbon footprint is. So for us as a group, carbon footprint is extremely significant, and we have agencies in order to measure the carbon footprint of each of our steps going forward. So based on the customer preference, their demand, there are 3 products which will be available at the end of this month, where we are launching this in Mumbai itself in the Green Business Conference, which is happening for the 23rd time. As I mentioned, there are going to be several product and service differentiators in these 3 variants. So apart from the innovation, there are 4 disruptions that we are going to bring into the market. Today I'll only talk about product and price. In the next 6 months, this will be shared with all the stakeholders. Product, we have done a lot of disruption in multiple aspects. The metallurgy, that's absolutely unique. This metallurgy is not available in the market by any producer today. Quality itself, as I mentioned, sustainability angle, even our packaging, performance, price. On 1st of November, on the National Unity Day, we have announced a one nation, one price for rock wool on FOR basis in 25 states and union territories of India. So we have done a lot extensive market research from the applicator, from the contractors, from the distributors, that the biggest struggle that they have is to sort the logistics issue. Every day we were thinking and we were talking from each person, what is my price there, what is my landed price there, what is my landed price there. Then we all sat together and we decided that apart from the core competence of our manufacturing capability, we also have a huge logistic operation. This plant is set up, by the way, in Visakhapatnam, where in Vizag itself, the annual movement of raw material and finished product in and out is more than 1 million ton. Now when we add Raipur to that, that just jumps to 5 million ton. So we have a huge logistic setup and we know in and out how the logistic industry works. So we have brought their core competence into this particular industry and we have created one nation, one price across India. Promotion and place, next 6 months we'll relieve what are the disruption we are bringing in these 2 aspects of the industry. Now, I think sustainability is a topic that nobody can ignore. This is the latest from the Sustainability Development Goal by UN. 2024 was the hottest year on record. And as we all know, that the biggest challenge that we face today is to keep the global temperatures within the 1.5 degrees centigrade limit. And for that, everybody has taken a goal globally that 2050, we should be net zero. Now, if you look at this, this is a humongous target, and this needs to be taken care by each and every stakeholder in all industry. India today, I think, in the construction sector or the building sector is just, I would say, on an exponential curve of development. And there is a huge amount of construction that's going to happen. And one of the slides did mention that the construction industry is almost like a 40% guzzler of energy or carbon emissions. So it is a huge responsibility that as we go forward and as the industry develops in India, sustainability should be at the topmost agenda. And that's where our product comes in place. Now, I'd just like to take you through a rough calculation, and it's quite possible that my calculations may not be precise. We are also learning a lot about the industry, so kindly excuse me, there are a lot of veterans sitting in the industry. Correct me if I made my calculations wrong. But I just want to take you that for sandwich panel manufacturing, how big is this challenge? So as we all know, every company across the globe has to define the carbon emissions, scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. Now, scope 1 is basically within your own premises. Everybody knows that company facilities, your vehicles, and scope 2 is again the energy, the steam, the heating, cooling, everything that you do. Now, these are the scope 1 and scope 2 emissions where everybody is focused upon. For a commodity player like us, which produces steel, a lot of these CO2 emissions are within our premises, actually 90%. But for the sandwich panel, it is not the case. The scope 3, which is basically all the goods and services that has been produced outside of your system, and a list of them. That is the upstream. Scope 3 downstream, which is all the product, which is how it is being sold, the carbon emissions of selling this product, etc., etc. Now, if you look at it, the upstream activities, and these are rough calculations, the upstream activities almost constitute to 60% of the carbon emission of a sandwich panel. And this is coming basically because of the two things, the steel that you use or the inner core that you use, whether it is based on hydrocarbons or non-hydrocarbon, doesn't matter. And 30% will be roughly on downstream. So practically the sandwich panel manufacturer, for reducing their carbon footprint, have only a room to play around with 10 to 15%. My calculations are not precise. They could be a little haywire, but these are rough estimates based on thumb rule that we have done for our industry and also for pharma and chemical industries. So basically you can only reduce to max of 10-15%. The majority of the sustainability aspect of your sandwich panel comes through the players who are producing and supplying the materials to you. And that's where it's very, very critical for you to choose what kind of material that you need to buy and what are the carbon footprints of them. I believe so there are a lot of producers who are making and selling sandwich panel outside of India. For them it is very, very relevant as to what their carbon footprint is going to be. Now, I've just done a rough thumb calculation. This is typical sandwich panel. Now it can be, you have the top layer, the bottom layer, and inside the core. If you look at it, I've just considered steel here for example because that's predominantly the most important one which is used. Roughly, based on the thickness of the steel, I think so 5 to 7 kgs per square meter of the weight of steel would come on the top. 5 to 7 kgs would be coming at the bottom depending on the thickness of the steel you are using. 5 kg, this is a typical rock wool, since we are from that industry, I have those calculations, it's a typical 50 millimeter thickness, 100 density material, will be weighing close to 5 kgs. So on a per square meter basis, the entire weight of the product will be anywhere between 15 to 17 kgs. Now let's look currently whatever material is available in the market. So steel forms the biggest because if you look at it, 10 kgs of steel per square meter. Now in India, from various sources, what we have evaluated is the carbon intensity is 2.5 kgs. Globally, it is quite less because of their energy mix and also the technologies that they have used. I believe so. There's a huge effort going on to decarbonize the steel, so this will come down, but there are a lot of challenges to scale it. So there's a big restriction here for the sandwich panel manufacturers because if you look at that, this is 25 kgs of per square meter of your carbon emission coming here. Now, if you look at rock wool, typically that is produced from Coppola, it is 5 kgs and 1.5 kg is a typical evaluation of the carbon intensity. So put together 7.5 kgs of carbon is being emitted for 1 square meter of sandwich panel. So I think the industry sandwich panel currently is around 33 kgs give or take. I have not considered the binders and the chemicals that are being used because it's very difficult to evaluate the carbon emission of that. Now this remains the same if you use our product because that's there. But when you use Rhino Eco Green, this is where you can reduce your carbon footprint dramatically. It's only 2 kgs as compared to 7.5 kgs today. Now these are all theoretical calculations done by us, and by the end of December, Eco Green will be produced fully through renewable power. So that's going to bring down substantially the carbon emission, barring one segment which is the curing oven where you have to still depend upon natural gas, LDO, diesel, whatever it is. So roughly 27 kgs is currently we can bring it down. Now if you look at that, the target by 2050 for all industries to bring their carbon emissions down by 80% by 2050. But through Rhino, we have brought it down by 70% right now. And 25% is the overall reduction that you can experience in the whole sandwich panel. Now, what does we bring to the table as a company? We have a legacy which is over 80 years plus, built through trust, quality and sustainability. We export to 60 plus countries, and our product is recognized world over for whichever sector we are into. We have NABL certified laboratories all across our facilities. We're well diversified. 8 sectors currently we are present in, and majority of the sectors we are there, we try to be the top 3 players in that particular sector. That's the vision that which we work with, and that's the commitment that the company is giving all the sectors that it is into. We have a very, very strong financials as a group, at the group level. We are one of the highest ratings that we enjoy by the financial agencies. So we have a long-term commitment to this particular product category. Our vision with Rhino is very simple. Currently in Visakhapatnam, we are operating in a 300-acre area where we have multiple facilities. That's where we have put up the first plant. By 2030, we want to be one of the largest producers of rock wool in the country. That's the vision that which we are working with. We are already having a lot of, for the next and the third phase, planning is already being done. There's one more important aspect that I wanted to talk to you about. So as we go forward, I think there are some critical points that as an industry we need to kind of keep in mind. The most important in the last 6 months that we have faced is the testing laboratories. And I think as the industry go forward, I think it's a huge imperative that we have enough testing laboratories for all these products to be tested and certified. In fact, the level of understanding even by the most recognized testing laboratories was quite shocking when we sent our product for doing a NRC test. And you won't believe, I was shocked because I realized that the values are absolutely not, and I would not name the testing agency because it is very well recognized by everybody. And when the test results came out of the product for NRC, I was shocked because it is not possible physically for the readings to go haywire. And when we went into detail, we found out that ideally for sound testing, you need to have a reverberation chamber of minimum 190 cubic meter capacity. And this agency had done all the testing in 80 cubic meter capacity where reverberation as a phenomena cannot be observed. And I'm talking about the most reputed laboratory, and this was the case. It took us 15 days and we had to actually bring the standards to them and prove it to them that no, you have done a big mistake because the readings are not making any sense. The first part. The second part, and this is particularly with mineral wool. See, there has been n number of studies being done from 1990s till date, multiple times by the National Insulation Association of America or Europe, and they have clearly recognized that mineral wool like rock wool is the non-carcinogenic material. It is not causing carcinogens at all. But today in India, the narrative has been spread that you need to do a EU CEB certification. It doesn't make sense. That's also fine. I mean, that's a test. But for doing this certification, you have to send material made in India to Europe to get the certification and bring it back. So I think going forward as a policy advocacy, what we need to do is with all these organizations, there is no problem in doing any test, but at least create those test facilities in India because this sector is going to grow forward in a huge way. And it's ridiculous that we send the material for testing to Europe and bring it back and then tell you, which is already a known knowledge. So these are some of the challenges that I feel that the industry needs to come together as a stakeholder in order to kind of do a lot of things There's going to be huge change in the National Building Code. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency has come out with Eco Nivas Samhita 2, which talks a lot about insulation and how it needs to be brought in place. And I think at the various state levels also it's being done. I was happy for one thing, because since last 7-8 years, I have been wondering, what insulation material is right. But I thought that I'll be in a minority to even ask this question into this gathering. But I think a lot of people are also into this particular confusion. Now, which material to use? I think there are trade-offs. Which material should be used? There are some benefits with some material, some benefits with some other material. And it's a trade-off that the end customer has to do. But I think as the value provider to this particular segment, we need to at least bring in the right questions at the table of the customer, because there are some questions which you ask at the end of a disaster is absolutely ridiculous. And I think, so you brought out this Netflix documentary of Grenfell Tower. I think everybody in the segment should do this, because that fire was not a long time ago. It was in a very recent past. 8 years back, 2018 it happened. And I think the most important thing is that at the end of it, ultimately the entire onus came onto the people who created the sandwich panel and the material that was supplied in it. So the question is, if you look, and one more thing I personally feel, we cannot just compare what's happening in rest of the world and bring it to India. I think that's the biggest mistake that we all do, because India is very different. And I think going forward, we need to create the standards which are relevant to India and not a cut copy from any other industry or any other country, sorry. So that's most important thing. And I personally feel that recently in the state of Andhra Pradesh, we had a meeting with the DG Fire, and there were 3 cold storages which caught fire and there was nothing left in it. So my only request to everybody is, when you're creating this awareness, because awareness is absolutely in stone age for insulation today. In fact, when I asked our purchase team, what is the difference between a 48, 64 and how does it help there was no answer. So the involvement of the management in general in the insulation products is pretty low. And what happened was, just a minute, the thing is that it caught fire and there was nothing left out of it. So the point is that you need to decide what's the best insulation for the application and what is the potential risk that you're taking by putting any material in there. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.